Welcome to the channel, beautiful beloved souls. My name is Gemstone. I'm a psychic medium and I am an author. And on this channel, you'll find 90% of the time I do commentaries. I look at anything and everything to do with life and death through a lens, hence the name of the channel. Now, before we get into it, I had previously asked money for this, but for this week only, ending on Sunday, the 21st of June, I'm offering these PDFs for free. So if you would like to learn how to remote view or how to channel, there's my email address. So you've got till this Sunday, 5 p.m. Sunday, to get your free copies. I would jump at the chance. Each PDF is quite long. So yeah, this is your opportunity to get a free PDF, both of them. After Sunday, I will be charging. All right, let's get into the commentary. Spiritual ethics, the karmic consequences of using remote viewing for personal gain. Introduction. Imagine for a moment that remote viewing works exactly as some practitioners claim. Imagine consciousness can access information beyond ordinary sensory limits. Imagine distance is not the barrier we once believed it to be. That's a fascinating possibility, but it immediately creates a difficult question. Just because we can do something, should we? For decades, discussion surrounding remote viewing has focused on accuracy. Can it work? How does it work? What targets can be viewed? But in this video, I want to examine a different question entirely. An ethical question. A spiritual question. What happens when sacred site becomes a business strategy? What happens when non-local perception is directed not towards understanding, service, or exploration, service, S-E-R-V-I-C-E, but instead towards personal enrichment? And if consciousness itself is woven into a larger moral framework, could there be consequences for using extraordinary perception in ordinary acts of greed? We're going to explore the spiritual paradox of remote viewing for personal gain, not from the perspective of proof, but from the perspective of ethics. Chapter 1. The commercialization of mystery. Many spiritual practices begin as sacred pursuits: meditation, prayer, vision quests, pilgrimage, contemplation. Throughout history, practices designed to deepen awareness often emerge from a desire to understand reality. Over time, however, something interesting tends to happen. The marketplace arrives. A spiritual tool becomes a product. A sacred practice becomes a service. A path becomes a business model. Remote viewing appears vulnerable to the same transformation. What begins as an exploration of consciousness can gradually become an opportunity. Can I predict markets? Can I identify investments? Can I gain an advantage? Can I get ahead? These questions are understandable. Human beings naturally seek security and success, yet the shift in motivation may be more significant than we realize. Chapter 2. The difference between knowledge and extraction. There is an important distinction between seeking knowledge and seeking extraction. Knowledge asks, what can I learn? Extraction asks, what can I take? At first glance, the difference seems subtle. Spiritually, however, the distinction may be enormous. One orientation moves towards understanding. The other moves towards acquisition. If remote viewing involves a relationship between consciousness and information, then intention may matter as much as outcome, perhaps even more. Many spiritual traditions teach that motive shapes consequences, not merely action, motive. And this is where the ethical discussion becomes fascinating. Chapter 3. The psychic trespass question. Suppose someone attempted to use remote viewing to examine another person's private affairs without consent. Would that constitute a violation? Many people immediately answer, yes. Yet, why? The information has not been physically stolen. No door was broken. No lock was picked. Still, most of us instinctively recognize a boundary. Privacy matters. Consent matters. Respect matters. This suggests that ethical considerations extend beyond the physical world. Even if remote viewing were entirely accurate, ethical questions would remain. Access alone does not create permission. Ability alone does not justify action. Chapter 4. The observer changes the observation. One principle found throughout both science and spirituality is that observation is not always neutral. The observer influences what is observed. In remote viewing circles, practitioners often discuss the importance of minimizing expectations and personal desires. Why? Because desire contaminates perception. The stronger the emotional investment, the greater the distortion. This creates an interesting paradox. The person most desperate to obtain financial information may be the least capable of receiving it clearly. The ego introduces noise. Fear introduces noise. Greed introduces noise. The signal becomes harder to hear. Chapter 5. The cosmic audit. Now, let's move into more speculative territory. Many spiritual traditions contain some versions of accountability, karma, moral balance, life review, spiritual consequence. Different cultures use different language, but the theme remains remarkably consistent. Actions have effects. Intentions matter. Growth requires responsibility. From this perspective, using expanded perception solely for personal gain may trigger what some practitioners describe as a cosmic audit. Not punishment, not divine revenge, simply consequence. The universe reflecting our choices back to us. Whether literally true or metaphorically true, the concept invites self-examination. What am I becoming through my actions? That question may be more important than what I am acquiring. Chapter 6. The historical pattern. Throughout history, stories repeatedly emerge about gifted individuals who lose their way, mystics who become obsessed with power, teachers who become obsessed with influence, visionaries who become obsessed with status. The pattern is ancient. The gift remains, but the purpose changes. Gradually, the gift serves the ego rather than transcending it. Whether we're discussing spiritual traditions, politics, science, or business, the lesson remains the same. Power tends to magnify character. The challenge is not obtaining ability. The challenge is using ability wisely. Chapter 7. The recoil effect. Some metaphysical practitioners describe a phenomenon I find particularly interesting: the recoil effect. The idea is simple. Whether consciousness is repeatedly directed towards manipulation, extraction, or control, the practitioner gradually experiences fragmentation. Relationships suffer. Intuition weakens. Peace diminishes. Meaning becomes harder to access. Again, this need not be viewed as supernatural punishment. Psychology alone may explain much of it. When life becomes organized around acquisition, other dimensions of existence often begin to shrink. Connection weakens. Wonder diminishes. The soul, if you prefer that term, becomes neglected. Chapter 8. The signal to noise problem. One observation frequently appears amongst experienced contemplative practitioner. Clarity requires alignment. The quieter the ego, the clearer the signal. The stronger the attachment, the greater the distortion. Whether discussing meditation, intuition, creativity, or remote viewing, similar principles emerge. A calm mind perceives differently than an agitated mind. A compassionate mind perceives differently than a competitive mind. This raises an intriguing possibility. Perhaps the universe does not restrict access. Perhaps our own motivations create interference. The signal is always present. Our attachments become the static. Chapter 9. When people become data. One of the greatest ethical dangers of any specialized ability is objectification, the tendency to stop seeing people as people. Instead, they become targets, resources, opportunities, data points. The danger is subtle. A practitioner begins by seeking information. Gradually, the information becomes more important than the individual involved. Compassion diminishes. Utility increases. This shift may represent one of the deepest spiritual risks associated with any form of power. Chapter 10. The Poverty of Endless Wealth. There is an old paradox worth considering. How much is enough? Many people imagine that acquiring more will eventually create peace. Yet, history provides countless examples of individuals possessing extraordinary wealth while remaining profoundly restless. The issue was never money. The issue was meaning. Remote viewing for financial gain raises similar questions. If consciousness truly possesses extraordinary potential, should its highest purpose be market prediction? Or is that equivalent to using a telescope only to inspect your neighbor's backyard? Perhaps the gift points towards something larger. Chapter 11. A compassion-based framework. Suppose someone wishes to practice remote viewing ethically. What principles might guide them? First, examine motivation. Why am I doing this? Second, respect boundaries. Does this action honor the dignity of others? Third, prioritize growth over acquisition. Am I seeking understanding or advantage? Fourth, remain humble. Extraordinary experiences do not exempt anyone from ethical responsibility. Finally, cultivate compassion. Compassion acts like a compass. It continually redirects attention towards service, S-E-R-V-I-C-E, service, rather than exploitation. Chapter 12. A New Code of Ethics. Perhaps remote viewing requires something similar to a professional code of ethics, not imposed from outside, developed from within, a framework grounded in respect, consent, humility, integrity, curiosity, and accountability. The goal would not be to restrict exploration. The goal would be to ensure that exploration contributes to human flourishing rather than personal exploitation. The question is not whether consciousness can access information. The question is whether wisdom occupies that access. Conclusion. The greatest danger in remote viewing may not be failure. It may be success without wisdom. If consciousness truly extends beyond ordinary limits, then ethical responsibility expands alongside it. The challenge is not simply learning how to see. The challenge is learning why we are seeing. What motivates the gaze? What directs the intention? What shapes the outcome? Whether one believes in karma, cosmic audits, spiritual consequence, or simple psychological cause and effect, the underlying lesson remains remarkably similar. Every ability carries responsibility. Every gift carries choice. And perhaps the universe is less concerned with what we discover than with what we become while discovering it. In the end, remote viewing may reveal distant locations, hidden objects, or unknown information, but the most important target may always remain the same, the viewer, because every act of perception ultimately reveals something about the consciousness doing the perceiving, and that may be the deepest spiritual lesson of all. Again, I will show you this. If you didn't see it the first time, thank you very much for watching. Please be kind to each other. Smile at a stranger. It costs nothing to smile, and it might just save someone's life. Take care of yourselves. Cherish every moment. Remember, you matter. You are special. Thanks again for watching, beautiful beloved souls. Wishing love, light, and blessing. Bye. Have a good Monday.